Well, we've got the right man to talk about this, actually. We're going to be joined live by a throw-in coach, Thomas Gronnemark, in just a moment. He worked with Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool from 2018 to 2023. This is what Klopp had to say about him. We brought in Thomas and it changed our throw-in game completely. We now have 18 different throw-ins in other areas and we want to have the ball after these throw-ins. It wasn't just the head coach as well, because Andy Robertson said, we all got measured and I was the worst. But since the day he came in, now I think I've gained about 6 metres in terms of his long throw-in. Thomas Gronnemark joins us live now. Great to speak to you, Thomas. Can you just talk us through a typical day for a throw-in coach like yourself? How much time do you actually get with the players?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm a freelance throwing coach, so I'm not full-time in the club. So if I'm having a contract with a club, I'll typically come there like 2, 3, 4 times a season. But then in a week, I'll coach 2 or 3 days, and I will coach like 30, 45 minutes per session. And the content is really depending on if the club is using mostly the fast and clever throw-in, like Liverpool FC, Dortmund and Ajax are coached, or they're using primarily the long throw-in. For example, like FC Midtjylland from Denmark or Brentford FC, like I coached last season.
And Thomas Tuchel says he's keen to use more long throw-ins. I take it you can understand why.
Yeah, I can understand why. But on the other hand, I'll also say that you shouldn't necessarily use the long throw-in unless you have world-class long throwers. And that's one of the biggest problems in the Premier League right now regarding throw-ins, is that a lot of teams are taking more throw-ins, but a lot of them are also not world-class. So if we're just looking at the 2 throw-ins Arsenal did here in the clips before, they're not long enough. So yes, once in a while you can create something from that, but you have to have world-class long throwers to have really great success. For example, last season in FC Midtjylland, we scored 11 long throwing goals. The last 5 seasons I coached him, 46 long throwing goals. So if the quality is not good enough, you shouldn't take long throw-ins. You should do throw-in space creation instead. And that's the same with the England's national teams. If they don't have world-class long throwers, don't do it.
Thomas, can I just ask that? What do you class as a world-class long throw? Is it based on... Because I've actually been in a team where we used to have... When I was at Cardiff, we had Andy Legg, who used to almost launch it in what you say is... It was a flat, almost like a corner, and he could throw it right into the 6-yard box. But what do you class as a world-class long throw?
Yeah, so normally I say when I measure, of course, on the ground, it's around 34 meters. So, of course, on the ground, that's around the penalty spot. But that equals approximately, depending on the weather conditions, approximately the first post in the air. So most of my players, they can throw in the air in a match, first post or the penalty spot or even the last spot. So if you can only throw to the edge of the small box, then you have to be a little bit lucky, you can say, with the flick on and so on. And yes, of course, you can find goals scored on that length. But if you ask me, don't do the long throwing if your throwers are not throwing long enough. And then I'll say it's not only the length of the throw, it's also the strategy too, because you have to have different strategies to have a bigger chance of succeeding. But it's really important for me to say that a lot of team coaches are thinking, wow, we don't have any long throwers, or they're thinking, oh, we already have one. But then they're satisfied with that. Most of my players improve 5 to 15 meters with just a more efficient technique. So even the England's national team, I'm not saying they should use the long throwing or use it a lot, but if they want to do it, they should work with the long thrower's technique, because it's a gigantic difference if a player can throw 28 or, let's say, 35 meters for the success.
Rob, can I just ask you, when you were playing, if one of your head coaches had brought in a throw-in coach, what would your reaction have been when you were playing?
To be honest, it's the same as now. In my opinion, I think, yes, you've got a long throw and it's a chance for a set piece. But I think, and I still don't see it in the modern game, is before you start thinking about throw-ins, think of your actual play, the set play. In terms of it's done correctly. Like Thomas says, you've got to have that world-class kind of detail in there. Otherwise, it becomes useless. And the worst thing, I've been in teams where you try and do a long throw just because the manager says, just because he wants it to happen, but the players are not quite comfortable with it. And sometimes I wasn't comfortable with it because I was like, well, you've got a 2v1 there. Use that. That's more important. You can get a cross in. That's more accurate with that crossing than throwing it in. So that sometimes that happens. And as a forward player, sometimes what happens is everybody comes in the box. Now you've got 22 players or 21 players inside the box, and then there's less space. So sometimes that's also a big problem. So that was my thoughts on it, because I just always think you got to prioritize what you have first. Your in possession is the best way first as an attacker, and the forward coach is non-existent in world football. That for me, it still puzzles me.
Thomas, I've got a statistic here from your time at Liverpool. The average possession went up from 45.4% after a throw-in to 68.4%. So in terms of teams who like to keep the ball, you wouldn't really think of throw-ins that much. But that statistic shows they are more likely, if they work on their throw-ins, to actually keep the ball, which is what they wanted.
Yeah, so this is really important for all teams. Of course, the technical teams and the teams who want possession, but there are 40 to 60 throw-ins in a match, and most teams lose possession in more than half the throw-ins there. So it's important no matter what team you are. And a lot of teams, they are either not thinking about throwing coaching, and if they do, it's only long throwing coaching. But keeping possession, creating chances, or scoring goals after throw-ins all around the pitch, that's so important. And also the opposite. When the opponents have a throw-in, it's also really important to be able to take the ball from them with different pressure and different strategies. So yes, all teams should think of throw-ins, because again, 40 to 60 throw-ins, and you're using approximately 20 minutes on throw-ins and throw-in related situation in a match. So it's actually a gigantic thing. It's just been underestimated for really many years in football.
Right, Thomas, great to speak to you. That was fascinating.
Sorry, can I ask him a quick question, Tom?
Yeah, go on.
Just how much were you working with the team? Say at Liverpool, for example, when you did come in, how much were you involved?
Yeah, I was involved, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. Like I had like 3-4 visits per season in Liverpool, the 5 years. And it was mostly the fast and clever throw-ins. But I was actually also analyzing around 300 games in 5 seasons. So I was looking at approximately 50 throw-ins per match times 300. So I looked at 15,000 throw-ins, 3, 4, 5, 6 times each throw-in. So I helped Liverpool a lot, both off, but especially on the pitch.
Yeah, Thomas, that was fascinating. Enjoyed that. Thank you.
You're welcome.